Hey guys, I'm Charlie, and this is my channel, WorthyTube. Today I'm talking about my new book, The Undeniable God, A Simple Defense for Christianity, and more specifically, I'm going to talk about some Old Testament prophecies that prove that Jesus really was the Jewish Messiah, proving that Christianity is the one true religion. So keep in mind, all of these prophecies were written hundreds of years before Jesus actually lived, right? Because I point that out because some skeptics will claim that the prophecies are made up and they were written after the time of Jesus so they could be faked. No, we have documents that are thousands of years old when the prophecy was made, and then we have documents in the New Testament that talk about when the prophecy actually came true, right? So there's thousands of years in between them, and we can prove when prophecy was made and when it came true, and we can prove that it actually happened. So the first one worth mentioning is Isaiah 53. It was written around 700 BC, and it prophesied how the Messiah would come and die for the sins of humanity hundreds of years before Jesus was even born. So Isaiah 53 verse 5 points it out clearly that this is talking about Jesus hundreds of years before Jesus was even born. As it says, he was pierced for our transgressions, he was crushed for our iniquities, the punishment that brought us peace was upon him, and by his wounds we are healed. So this is very obviously talking about Jesus. And one of the cool things that I think is funny that I like to do is I like to show this Bible verse to a skeptical friend and let them read it and then ask, hey, who do you think this is talking about? And they go, well, I think it's talking about Jesus. And I go, huh, that's interesting, because this was written hundreds of years before Jesus was even born. So another really cool prophecy is Psalm 23, which describes the crucifixion experience hundreds of years before crucifixion's even invented by the Roman government. So it's pretty epic. Another important aspect about this prophecy is Jesus actually quotes the beginning of Psalm 23 when he's on the cross, when he says, my God, why have you forsaken me? So it's clear that Jesus was trying to communicate to the people that he was fulfilling this prophecy right in front of them. So, just to give you some details about what this prophecy says the crucifixion experience will be like, basically the psalm goes on to talk about how a person will be mocked, he'll be despised, that his bones were out of joint, which is an interesting detail because this relates to how a person's shoulders would become dislocated when they were hanging on a cross. So even the tiniest and strangest of details are mentioned in this psalm. And it even goes on to talk about how his hands and his feet are pierced, foreshadowing how the crucifixion victims were literally nailed to a cross. It also talks about how a man's garments were being cast out in lots, which of course also happened to Jesus. So obviously, in my opinion, there's no way all of these details could relate to the crucifixion experience of Jesus unless it actually happened, unless he really is the chosen Messiah. Okay, so now I'm going to talk about Zechariah 9:9 and Daniel 9:24 through 27. So these two prophecies go together because Zechariah 9:9 described how an event would take place, while Daniel 9 describes the exact year it would actually happen. So that's obviously pretty remarkable. So both of these prophecies relate to the Messiah entering Jerusalem, okay? So Zechariah said that the Messiah would enter into Jerusalem riding on a donkey, bringing salvation. And Jesus did this by miraculously knowing that a donkey would be waiting for him as described in the gospel. So, cool detail. Daniel 9 talks about how the Messiah would appear, how he would be killed, and how it would seem like he accomplished nothing at first. So this obviously relates to how people initially felt after Jesus was crucified and before he raised from the dead. So the Daniel prophecy also predicts the exact year that this would happen. So essentially it predicts that 483 years after the decree to rebuild Jerusalem, the Messiah would then arrive in Jerusalem. Okay, so the math is kind of complicated, and I'm going to use my cheat sheet by just reading out of my book because I wrote it real nice and pretty. So here we go. In Daniel's figurative language, he speaks of a series of sevens taking place, which represents 7 years. He explains that this should happen after 7 sets of 7, meaning 49, and 62 sets of 7, meaning 434, have passed. When you add this together, you get 483 years total. So, to recap, this decree was actually made by Persian King Artaxerxes in 444 BC, as recorded in Nehemiah chapter 2, and was later fulfilled in 33 AD. Now keep in mind that the Jewish calendar only had 360 days a year, so when you convert it into our calendar, you have to add 6 years to make up the difference. When you add 444 years to 33 years and add 6 years to convert it into our calendar, you get 483 years just as predicted. And this event is now known as Palm Sunday, so it's kind of a big deal. So clearly that is mega cool. There's no way that all these prophecies could happen about one person. There's even other prophecies I didn't talk about because they're complicated and weird. But these are simple. They're easy to understand, and they prove that Jesus Christ really was the Jewish Messiah, that he was the one true God. Mind equals blown. Thank you for watching this video. Check us out on Facebook and Twitter, and share this with a friend. Peace out.